Tom Quee and Sam Wiles present Down in the Hole, a Tom Waits podcast which explores and critiques, episode by episode, every album of the American artist. To find out more information about the show and the man himself, visit tomwaitspodcast.wordpress.com. Hello everyone, hello and welcome back to Down in the Hole. This is the Tom Waits podcast. This is episode 22 of a Plan 23. This is the penultimate episode. I mean, when you think back on like great TV shows and great movies and stuff, the penultimate scenes, they're the best ones, aren't they? The penultimate episodes. And in this case, I would genuinely agree in the music they're about to engage with today. This is Bastards, the third disc of Orphans. Incredible disc, as I'm sure you'll agree. And there's going to be a lot to talk about. And of course, it's not going to be just me talking. It's going to be a good friend of mine who is... he's as much as a baller as he is a bastard. It is.
I'm not much of a brawler at all.
You aren't. No, I didn't want to say because I've seen you brawl and you've given some quite cheeky punches. The Jordan Tallis incident. We'll just mention that. No one will get that, but just to kind of put that in the episode is nice to do because this is like we say, Sam. We're on episode 22. We've been doing this for a long time now. And we were saying just for when I'm live on air that like the feeling's slightly different. Like it's not that we aren't excited and we don't love Waits. It's just that because we've done 22 episodes, because we've done so much content on it, it's a nice. It feels snug now, doesn't it? It feels familiar.
Some would call us artisan experts, but
right.
I think this is it's coming to a nice natural head now, isn't it? We do know how to talk about Tom Waits in our sleep now.
I guess so, yeah. I guess so. And we should say that if you want any more Waits content, you can check out our YouTube channel. If you are listening on YouTube at the moment, which I appreciate a lot of people do, people either generally subscribe on iTunes, which you can do as well if you listen on YouTube, vice versa sort of thing. But yeah, if you can subscribe on YouTube and also check out our YouTube channel, that's Down in the Hole. The actual channel itself, just search Tom Waits Podcast on YouTube and you'll come across us. You'll recognise the thumbnail. And on there's various bonus episodes of me and Sam discussing things that we haven't discussed on these normal album discussions. Obviously, if you're new to the podcast, we are discussing every single album, every single release of Tom Waits, including a few live albums as well. And a few kind of like rarities albums such as Orphans, which in my view is a studio album. It's that quality, it's definitely up there. We are going through them all. So if you want to see our excursions towards maybe stuff like Storytellers, we also did our top 5 favourite songs of his early years, of his middle years. We're definitely going to come close to doing a top 5 of his later years soon, Sam. I think that just makes sense.
Yeah. What record company was he signed with for Bad As Me? It's not Anti, is it?
It is
Anti.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It is. He's still with Anti. Yeah. He's been with Anti for a while.
We can up
now.
the Anti, then that's good.
Exactly. And also at Tom Waits Podcast on Twitter, if you want to follow us there. Always posting little pictures and videos and GIFs and Tom Waits things and just various interactions with people. So I just want to say thank you to everyone that has got in contact with us through that as well. We also have a shop. We have a Redbubble shop in which we are. We're selling a few things now, Sam. It's pretty cool.
Selling out fast, definitely.
Well, maybe it's similar to that. That moment in The Simpsons when Homer buys Bart that microphone, that like radio style microphone, and he orders it up from the warehouse, and he's like, "Do you have one in stock?" And they have like 5 million in the background. Like it's kind of like that slightly. We have a lot of Tom Waits merchandise.
Step right up. It fillets it, chops it, dices it, slices, never stops, lasts a lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
These are great products.
I wouldn't reappropriate that slogan though. We both know that Frito-Lay came the way of Waits, so
it bibs and bubs and zoops. Oh, that guy was so lame.
Check out earlier episodes, by the way, for a discussion of that. And we actually got the advert as well from a great listener. So, I forget what episode exactly. It might have been Alice around that era, but check back. I'm sure you'll find it. But I just want to do a slightly left field final bit of admin as well. Sam, you're doing a Paul McCartney podcast? You're starting one, is that right?
Yeah, basically, we've kind of decided to have a bit of a Lennon-McCartney break, but on much more amicable terms. You've got your annoyingly successful show, Battle Rap Resume, which is taking off amongst the dregs of YouTube, which I'm very happy about.
Right.
Obviously, I've got my sort of little Only Fools and Horses podcast that I do more probably for myself than for any actual fan base. But
I think you've got a fair few listeners on there, man. Like I wouldn't put yourself down.
I want those Podomatic downloads and those iTunes downloads.
Right.
YouTube is dead to me practically.
No offense, YouTube listeners.
Essentially, I very much like this format of coming into my quote-unquote little studio every 2 weeks, talking about music.
Yeah.
The Down in the Hole format, as it's now going to be to
patented.
patent pending. We haven't totally settled on a name yet. There are a few names floating around the airwaves. You probably know which one I might end up picking, but I'm practically going to be doing a Down in the Hole about Paul McCartney. Yes, I'll be doing everything from his early years as just McCartney, all the way through Wings, and of his experimental stuff as these electronica forays as the Fireman, and we're going to be just covering literally everything from 1970 all the way up to new in 2015. 13?
What was his most recent release? Was it Memory Most Full? Perhaps I'm not quite well acquainted with his recent
look,
releases.
it's a lot of stuff. There's going to be
It's a hell of a lot of stuff, man. He has the electronic albums, he has the classical albums, he has the Wings, more than Tom Waits. Yeah. And Sam is doing this on his own, we should say as well. I want to guest for a few episodes. But how do people follow you? You have a Twitter, don't you? That people can kind of get.
Yeah,
updates.
It'll just be at McCartney Pod. That'll be up and live soon. It's important to grab these domain names whilst you can. Whilst they're catchy.
Yes.
If you want to email me about anything, any ideas you may have for the show, Mad King Ludwig, I'm looking at you, mate. That's paulmccartneypod@gmail.com. So almost identical to our one.
Yeah, I should say quickly as well that there will be a slight break for the final episode of the podcast. I'm going on holiday early July, so basically I'm going away for a fortnight. So when we would have released Bad As Me, I'll be away. So me and Sam have decided to delay it slightly, and basically that means that Bad As Me will be coming out Thursday the 21st. I appreciate that a lot of people are going to be listening to this in the future, and this is going to mean nothing to you because Bad As Me is right there in your feed, next to it. There's no time delay, and I love that about podcasts, that you can just skip across years with streams and just pressing screens. It's crazy. But for those who are listening in real time, Bad As Me there. And we'd love you to get in contact because it is going to be kind of our final official episode. We are going to do more bonus episodes on the YouTube, as we say. Please do subscribe. But in terms of the kind of official Down in the Hole run, where we go through every single studio release, Bad As Me, until Tom releases something else, which, I mean, I think he will.
He's
hopefully
got
will.
2 more in him. He's got 2.
Yeah, he's still making music. He was on the John the Revelator. He was on the Blind Willie Johnson cover album just this year. He's in a Hulu drama series. He's active. He's not retiring. Maybe he's not on a Bob Dylan spectrum of releasing music so consistently, but thank God he's not, because a lot of that's dross, and Tom's way better than that. So we wait. And 2011 was when Bad As Me came out. It's 2016 now. It's been 5 years.
2011.
2011. Yeah, it was 2011. So I mean, a great release as well. I mean, Metacritic, was it number 1 or something? It was like so well received. It went out of the way. But if you want to get in contact with us on this kind of most hallowed of final episodes, please do. That's tomwaitspodcast@gmail.com. And I'm just going to go through some emails today. We've got some great emails in this episode. First emails from someone who's been in contact before, and someone who's just giving a quick roundup of Bastards before we jump into the disc, which I think was very, very helpful. This was Corby Daniel. Corby begins, I was extremely excited when a 3-disc set of Tom Waits rarities was announced, but also felt a touch cheated. I'd spent a lot of time picking up soundtracks and compilations to gather up quite a collection of non-album Tom Waits tracks. That's interesting, isn't it? Like, Corby was one of those. We were talking about this earlier in earlier episodes, weren't we? Who were these people seeking out these soundtracks? Well, I mean, like, I guess back then, if you wanted to, you could. There was the capacity. But he goes on to say, I would like to say that disc 3, Bastards, is my favourite, being as I tend to enjoy the more experimental and strange output from Waits, or any artist really. However, of the 3 parts of this collection, Bastards seems to feel the most scrapped together and aimless. Tom's spoken word tracks are always a treat, but there seem to be too many of them here, and Children's Story in particular seems like Tom doing a parody of himself, trying a little too hard to come up with another What's He Building? Also, the inclusion of On the Road, as well as the alternative version Home Will Never Be, intensifies the sense that Tom was just trying to fill the space toward the end. And that goes double for the 2 amusing but uselessly dangling introduction pieces that close out the disc, like the lolling tongue of a badly whipped horse. Plugged between songs, they would be amusing segues. Tacked on at the end of the disc, they are literally introductions to nothing.
Aww.
And Corby continues that that's about the most negative paragraph I can ever imagine myself writing about Tom. In fact, I would never have imagined until it just happened. I feel desperate to digress a bit and reiterate that the only thing I'd change about this set is the order of the tracks. So we've got a fantastic little review of Bastards there from Corby. I mean, do you share his views there on the spoken? Is Children's Song a parody to you?
I'm more inclined to believe that the placement of Dog Treat and Missing My Son at the end might be misjudged. That I never thought about it that way, but yeah, they are introductions to nothing. And when you watch things like Storytellers on VH1, these actual little it's compiled to become Tom's Tales on the later
Glitter and Doom.
Thank you. Maybe perhaps splopping it throughout the album probably would have been more effective, just to kind of lead you into the next one. But Children's Story as a parody, no, I think it's quite dark actually. I think it's pure blood money, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great. And our next email comes from someone else who's been in contact. Thank you so much for getting back in contact, Michael Davis. He begins, "Hello Sam and Tom. I was fiddling around with some songs in Audacity, and in messing around with the files for Lucinda, I somehow ended up removing the beatboxing altogether, revealing some very subtle guitar, which I think we referenced earlier, like the fact that kind of like Lucinda, if you took away the beatboxing and put chords in its place, it'd be a very traditional song. Michael seemed to have taken up on this, put it on YouTube, and he says that he much prefers the song this way, and you can find it by, if you just search Lucinda without beatboxing, it'll be the top link, and it's a fascinating thing to listen to. It's really, really cool. Michael concludes by saying that he's really digging the Orphans reviews. It's his second favourite Waits album after Bad As Me. Extremely accessible, yet subtly bizarre. Keep up the good work. Regards, Michael Davis. Michael, thank you so much. That was a great email. Our next email is from Seth. First time getting in contact. Hi Seth. He begins, "Hi guys. I'm listening to the Brawlers podcast right now and decided to type this up for you. Now, I'm sure that the first time I heard or saw Tom's Downtown Train video was in the 80s, since I was a young teen during those early years of MTV, and I do remember seeing that young actor. It didn't make much of an impact on me at that point though, so I have a big gap until my first real experience. I went to college at Northern Arizona University in Flagstaff, Arizona. Flagstaff is something of a neo-hippie town sitting at 7,000 feet elevation in the middle of a huge coconino pine forest. This sounds amazing. Yeah. The university has a ceramics lab that is out on the edge of the campus surrounded by the pines. It has a huge 42-foot log wood-fired kiln that must be stoked for 24 hours a day for a week when it is fired. So, here I am, in late fall 1993, taking a graveyard shift and stroking this kiln, tossing in pieces of kindling into each of the 4 or so stoke holes. This is very Tom Waitsy, isn't it, in the detail? The 4 or so stoke holes on my side every few seconds to get this kiln up to the 2,500 degree Fahrenheit temperature that we're trying to get it to. After doing this for 4 hours or so, at about 3 in the morning, with my face melting off, my ass freezing in the mountain cold and ash and snow flying through the air, the guy I'm stoking the kiln with puts a CD in stereo, and all of a sudden, blasting through the night, I hear, "Ladies and gentlemen," and I was hooked forever. I can't think of a better sight of right time, right place. My road to live shows is quite a bit longer. Obviously, becoming a fan in Arizona in '93 meant that I didn't have much opportunity in seeing a show for a while. Then Mule Variations came out and Tom announced his major tour. Nothing initially announced in my area though, so I waited for the next wave of dates to be announced. Then the tour was over. Damn. So at that time, I told myself that any North American date I would be at. Now clearly, I ignored the one-off and short-set benefit shows, which Waits does quite a bit actually for Neil Young, which is great. So I wait through 2000, 2001, 2002, etc. We finally get to 2004, and we finally get a new album. And rumours start about a tour. Only in Vancouver, apparently. Shit, fuck it, I bought the ticket. And then I bought the flight and hotel and flew up for my first show. I get there and meet up with the Rain Dogs group to find out there is a surprise show at the 800 capacity Commodore Ballroom for the locals. But there is a list. I search out Sarah and Shane Corellian and successfully get on the list. Now I've got 2 shows. Awesome. The Commodore show was amazing. 2 years later, and we get the Orphans tour, and I make much more extensive plans with several Rain Dogs friends taking a classic road trip. God, could you imagine that? I flew to Chicago seeing that show, continued to Detroit and Akron. We even fit in a trip to the roller coaster park Cedar Point. At some point, I think the one in Detroit, Tom announced a midnight show in Cleveland. I didn't realise Tom was announcing so many shows here and there. Like, you know, I thought he was very sort of, this is my
Rich
tour
pickings.
sort of guy, but this is crazy. So again, that resulted in a lot of scrambling to procure tickets. Cleveland remains the best show I've ever seen. And then in 2008, and it was one more grand road trip with the others. I'm living in Dallas by this point, so I flew back to Phoenix to see the 2 shows there. Then this guy's seen so much. Then El Paso, Houston, and ending in the Dallas show, which just happened to occur on my 10th anniversary. After the show, all the Rain Dogs got us a cake and gave us a little bit of a party. It was a perfect evening. I got really spoiled there with those last 3 tours, and they were all 2 years apart. Since then, it's been creeping close to a decade since the last Ryogun shows. I'm just very glad that I took the fullest advantage opportunities I did for those 3 tours. I know this is very long and feels a little bit braggy, but I'm just trying to hype up hitting the road in a car with friends, both new and old. There's really nothing like it. It's always an adventure and some of my favourite memories. It was a fantastic email, Seth. Thank you so much. That was lots to take in there. I'm very jealous of you.
So many people
really
buy expensive flights just to go see this guy. I think that
I would.
Well, that's the we've said it before. If there was another tour and he wasn't coming to Europe, we would have to go to the States. We'd have to drop everything and just dash off. But at least when he does come to the UK, everywhere's kind of within, a day, a cheap day's journey, really. We don't have to travel from east to west coast. Like, the furthest we may have to go is Ireland, and that's a quick ferry.
Yeah,
I'd love him to come back though.
I would.
A proper British tour. Do Milton Keynes, do the Wolverhampton Civic bigger.
The problem is he's of that top tier, non-stadium tier. So he's not a big rock act like a Springsteen, so he can't really do a proper tour. So he has to kind of fit into that singer-songwriter mould. And normally someone of his esteem, say he kind of fits into like a, Billy Joel, Paul Simon, David Byrne type mould. He'll do a night in Edinburgh, a night in London. Like, it's not really in his... He doesn't have to, you know what I mean? It's kind of a shame, really, but he doesn't have to do it.
I wish he did have to.
Yeah. Our next email comes from a good friend of the show. This is Mad King Ludwig. And he gets in contact, replying basically to an email that we were chatting about in an earlier episode. He says, "Hi there, Tom and Sam. Thank you kindly for your response. It's funny, I've now listened to all but the Foreign Affairs edition of your podcast, and I feel that I know you and Sam so well. So in a strange but entirely wonderful way, it feels like we've been corresponding for some time now. Maybe the line was dead my end, but I've been listening intently to yours." And then basically I had said something about weights to him, basically saying that the reason I love weights, and I've made this point several times in the podcast before, I think he's incomparable in terms of output. And like just the way he kept changing, and the quality of his consistent albums and how good they all are for artists. And I just think if you put him toe to toe to anybody else, he kind of wins out. Like, just in sort of the quality. But I mean, obviously, do a Tom Waits podcast, I'm going to be really fucking biased. So, and Ludwig answers me by basically saying that the man Waits is really a marvel of change without compromise, progression without regression, and above all, inventiveness and wonder. His music for me is like the musical incarnation of what F. Scott Fitzgerald said about literature. Quote, "That is part of the beauty of all literature. You discover that your longings are universal longings, that you're not lonely or isolated from anyone, you belong." With Tom, there's always a sensitivity and a sense of the human about his work, hidden though it may be inside an old tea chest or under the hat of a German dwarf. And then he begins on Ballers, which is obviously our most recent episode. Ballers is a pretty good place for that sensitivity. Long Way Home, Widow's Grove, even Little Drop of Poison. There's a real tenderness to the composition and delivery. Fanning Street is my favourite for sure. I have to disagree with you there, but fair enough. I wonder whether it has any connection with the Leadbelly song, which is about a well-known place for its brothels. Tom has largely left that world behind, but there is at least that connection with Leadbelly himself, who left this world as Tom was going the other way. I loved your podcast on Brawlers too. That was one of the three that I connected with most easily. To me, it sounds as close to Exile as Main Street as Tom will get. And by that, I mean an album that is effectively all filler-type stuff, but largely of such strong composition and performance that it raises each song above such description. That's an interesting point about Brawlers, actually. Not thought about it. That's a good criticism. I'll be recording more avidly to your Ballers and Bastards, though, and look forward to each week's episode. When you're brushing up on Bastards, by the way, you might like to check out this reading of Bukowski's Laughing Heart as a link to Nirvana. It's such a beautiful poem, The Laughing Heart, and no narrator could Bukowski have sought better than Tom. So yeah, definitely check that out, Bukowski doing the Laughing Heart there. And just close that, Ludwig has some music, didn't he, Sam? You listened to some of his tracks?
No, I listened to some of his music on his live show they put out, yeah, but he...
Yeah, and his podcast as well.
He does have a podcast. He opened it up by talking about Swordfish Trombones. He kind of does like a theme every episode. So it was like a theme of new beginnings. So what better album to do than Swordfish Trombones? I wouldn't say it's the definitive podcast on Swordfish Trombones.
Of course not.
We have to do a bit of a non-disparagement agreement there. But honestly, for a first foray, and I know you've done this recently now as well. You've just started a little sort of mini pod called Gesticulations, where you talk about jest. It's so hard to do it on your own. Keep up that momentum. Like if people put out these podcasts without any editing whatsoever, there'd just be these huge 5-minute gaps where you're just going.
Yeah, it's kind of like, even like I was saying to you earlier, like doing a half an hour, it's more like you're doing 10-minute slots, and then you're kind of gathering your thoughts and your breath, because just you are not normally in life do you talk for 10 minutes straight, like, you know what I mean, let alone an hour or so.
General pattern or something.
Yeah, and like Stefan Molyneux always impresses me. He seems to just be able to just go and go and go, like, on his own. But our final email before we dig into Bastards as a whole is from someone who's new, getting in contact. This is from a Grim Auxiliatrix, and they begin by saying, I'll just introduce myself and give a brief run through of my Tom Waits thoughts, favourite albums, etc. I discovered your podcast fairly recently, and it's definitely increased my need to hear all of Waits' albums as quickly as possible. Although I didn't listen too much to Foreign Affairs, and I still haven't really looked at One from the Heart. I mean, One from the Heart I'd recommend, Sam, wouldn't you? Good release.
Yeah, we've kind of said recently that it's nowhere near as bad as even we thought it was when we did it. Like when we did it, we thought it was like, oh,
is it better than Foreign Affairs?
Yes, hands down.
Okay.
Purely just the instrumental montage. Nothing on Foreign Affairs kind of tickles me the same way as that does.
Yeah. Good. But it concludes, if I had one word to describe him, I'd probably use Enigma. I actually prefer Small Change over any other of his albums. Every song is memorable, deep, lyrically fascinating, and simply thought-provoking. Step Right Up is fun as hell. Yeah, we agree. Incredible song. Tom Trolbert's Blues might have some of his most powerful lyrics. And I wrote my final English essay this year on the symbolic meaning of the piano has been drinking.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Oh, great.
That's really cool.
And I have a huge love for the atmosphere of the title track. I also quite like Blue Valentine, Rain Dogs, Frank's Wild Years, and Mule Variations. Foreign Affairs is probably my least favourite, but I seem to like it more than most people. A lot of people hate the duet. I quite like the duet. Sam hates the duet. And the 8 minutes Potter's Field. I like Potter's Field as well. I think you like Potter's Field, don't you, as well? It's a great track. But
cinematic gem.
Yeah. Crazy. But I don't really mind them. Still, everything just blends together and it seems a bit generic, which is fair enough if Foreign Affairs. I can get that. Well, the main reason I'm sending this email is just to chip in some thoughts on Bastards, and you're doing that soon. Personally, it's my favourite side of the triple disc, but not really for the songs. For me, it's the spoken word pieces. Children's Story is dark. It has a childlike fascination to it, for example. Army Ants has a really hilarious, semi-disturbing ending that works really well with the gruesome ant descriptions. The Pontiac is the one that I find the most unique and odd of the set, and works well as a character piece, until I always expect to hear the sound of a car crash at the very end. Maybe it's just my twisted mind. However, Nirvana has slowly become my favourite. The poem by Bukowski is amazing, and Tom's delivery is perfect for the material. The poem just has so much depth to analyse and think. Well, I think the others, while fun and do have some things to look into, they really aren't as smart or deep as this one. Anyway, take care. Well, thank you, Grim. That was a great email.
Great name as well.
Really, really interesting. Yeah, and yeah, please, if you guys want to get in contact with us, please shoot us an email, tomwaitspodcast@gmail.com. But we'll jump into Bastards, and Bastards is an interesting one, isn't it? Because it's called Bastards. You can't really dictate a defining song characteristic like you could a baller or a brawler, you know what I mean? There's kind of many directions that definition can go into. And the makeup of the album's interesting. By my eyes, I mean, we can define things by different hairlines if we want, but there are 6 spoken word pieces on here. There are 3 kind of musical numbers, almost, kind of like opera, kind of, stage numbers. There's 3 all-and-out rockers, 2 instrumentals. There's 2 weirder songs that I can't really place anywhere, and there's 2 ballads. So there are brawlers and ballers in the mix as well, you know what I mean? It's kind of, I love the fact that there is this kind of consanguineous mix between the 3 of them, of their DNA. It's terrific.
It does keep you on your toes, definitely. It is the most mixed of bags. The phrase Bastards is probably just like, these are his children, but, maybe we're not sure who the mother is. But
yeah, I like that. Yeah.
I think we should just dive right in, man.
Well, what does keep man alive?
Mate, we've talked about opening Tom Waits tracks to death on this podcast, and I've said that phrase on this podcast to death. What Keeps Mankind Alive is one of the best opening Tom Waits tracks of all time. This is so fucking brilliant. I love this track so much. In terms of something that
of all time, though,
it grabs me. I was like, "What the hell is this album going to be?"
Yeah. That accordion heave is just nutritious. Oh man!
But it was on a tribute album called Lost in the Stars, the music of Kurt Weill from 1985, and it's from Kurt Weill and Berthold Brecht. It's called the Three Penny Opera, so I'm not going to say it in German. But apparently the correct title is the second Three Penny Finale. But What Keeps Mankind Alive is this bit where a bandit comes on stage and he's kind of singing "What Keeps Mankind Alive," and then a voice off stage will call out "What Keeps Mankind Alive," and then he'll kind of just explain what it is. And it's a very macabre song. This is firstly, I thought I might just say I actually heard this song from a different performer, another oddly Waitsian one. It was William S. Burroughs, obviously, who worked with Tom on The Black Rider. When I was just looking up The Black Rider, and I was like, oh wow, William S. Burroughs, this is cool. So yeah, this is probably one of the creepiest tales that Tom ever gives us. There's just this. I just love the way that you have this really heavy brass section, and like you say, that really wheezy accordion, a creepy banjo, and they just harmonise together perfectly by things like concept and tone. And essentially Tom just delivers us some of the most like shocking realizations of how crap the world really is. For me, Bastards is the album of songs I'd wish Tom Waits had written. This is one of the primary examples of that. But when he just starts listing, you know, what does keep mankind alive, bestial acts, that kind of thing, like the pre-established gravitas that we associate with Tom Waits after like so many albums of home truths and revelations of his own, that it does make you kind of instantly stop and listen to him very intently, and you're like, holy shit, mankind is horrible. Spoiler alerts to the song, but it is it makes Blood Money look like Foreign Affairs in terms of its mood. It's really dark.
It feels real, doesn't it? What he's saying you can apply to the world around you. Rather, Blood Money was like, you've never been inside the belly of a whale, you know. Whereas here, like, he's just addressing the contradiction that is inside every human being. The fact that, you know, in our general reference, like, think of right now, all the refugees coming along to Calais, all the horrific stuff that's going on, and the reason why mankind we can keep alive is because we have the ability to ignore. We have the ability to repress. We have the, you know, it says, you know, mankind can keep alive thanks to its brilliance in keeping its humanity repressed. And once you must try, you must not shirk the facts. Mankind is kept alive by bestial acts. So yeah, kind of again, almost like a little pun as well. And at the end, like, mankind is kept alive by being an animal, so it's kept alive by being what it isn't. But yeah, the sound of this song as well, the heave out of the darkness, the firmament above and below, the tiny banjo is just out there, kind of in there interweaving. How tense is this song? Like, you know, the rooster cockerel, the horn, like the sheer force of it. I love the last minute or so, that rumpy Salvation Army polka resurgence, and again, Tom is just kind of, you know, platitudes here. He's really kind of on Mount Sinai and dishing out the truth, and you can't help but be affected. by
like
it.
I love how he does kind of shift into a singing kind of mode late in that latter part of the song. He gives that like extra dose of power, and this is like I do think there's a bit of this song could have been very much at home on Bone Machine. This is very much a Welcome to Bastards feel, very much
it's like heavier than Bone Machine in a weird way. Like, it's kind of less grimy, but it's more.
Obviously, with its 18th century theatrical roots, this does have a bit of a Black Rider feel to it as well. In terms of its just bombasticness. Sure. There's also a welcome return of marimba work as well. Like just because of that bony style, it's very, very retro in terms of weights. Obviously, this is a song that was recorded in '85. So this is him in the thick of like Rain Dogs and stuff like that. So it's perfect. We also have almost like Heart Attack and Vine meets like his Imagine Him of Dr. Parnassus kind of voice here. And this, to be fair, it's just another example of how Waits' most successful covers are the ones that do convince you that he originally did write them in the first place. Now, I know it sounds kind of obvious when you consider how many of his songs are so just goddamn Waits in the first place, but when you consider things like, you know, Jackie and Judy, not to talk about that song again.
Can't forget her.
If you told me this hadn't been written by Tom Waits, I wouldn't have been able to tell. I just had total faith in him that he was just dishing out all of these horrible John the Revelations about society. And then you've just got that very harsh cut at the end, and that tension, like you say, it's just kind of like like, oh my god, I had to sit through all that.
It's like the drop of a curtain after a musical number, isn't it? It's just like a...
And you can imagine a crowd going, whoa, like that.
Yeah.
It's such a perfect way to be like, look, this is Bastards. This is going to be nothing like the last album. There's no You Can Never Hold Back Spring opening up this one. This is like, okay, I'm going to give you possibly one of the weirdest, most aggressive ones straight away. And then we'll go into something a bit more sullen.
Well, yeah, there's some levity here with Children's Story. Like, I can appreciate how people would read it initially as maybe quite depressing, but I mean, the fact that there's laughter at the end, you know, the fact that it's titled Children's Story, so it's kind of playing on both the fact that it's a child's story and that, you know, it's being told to someone, and who doesn't want Waits, you know, sitting next to them on the bed with the book open? You'll listen to whatever this guy says. Yeah. And he was interviewed in 2006 in Stop Smiling magazine. They asked, when you were a kid, what kind of stories were read to you? Nothing about the world being an upside-down piss spot. And then he answers, an overturned piss spot. I added that. He is there to this day, all alone. Most children's stories have a dark element. There's the two brothers. One was kind of slow in the head, not very ambitious, and the other one left home early and got lost. They're always sad or frightening. Most of them are cautionary tales. When my kids were young, I would make stories up and say, give me the elements. What do you want in there? Okay, a tree, a polar bear, and a typewriter. All right. That's how we usually start. Stories kind of tell themselves, especially when you're searching for the next chapter. It's kind of a real condensed version of what you do when you're really writing. When you're writing for kids, you have to come up with stuff on the spot. And this is a great play with it, isn't it? I mean, wonderful imagery as well. Reminds me a lot of kind of The Little Prince. Just kind of like the child descending into the sun and the stars, and the sun was a wilted sunflower when he gets there, and kind of Icarus almost. You get to the certain reach, and you realise it isn't what exactly you want. The Earth was a overturned piss pot we've heard before in Lullaby, in Blood Money as well. But what interests me most about these spoken word tunes is not the spoken word stuff itself, which is of course good. You know that it's going to be good. It's the instrumentation that Waits puts behind it. I think there are certain songs where he does it better than this. Maybe like Nirvana, for example. It's probably the high peak of this album in terms of spoken word instrumental mel. But I like Children's Story. It's a memorable track. I mean, you didn't like That's the Way, didn't you? But you like Children's Story, and I've always seen them very similar in terms of their design.
I don't know. I just think that this one, obviously, it is another one from Wojciech and didn't end up on Blood Money, so the overturned piss pot thing has a bit of a running thread.
What up, Shiny Things?
Yeah, I was just about to say. However, unlike Shiny Things, I think the album would have actually benefited from the inclusion of this song. This is just the epitome of like Waitsian melancholia and utterly crippling depressiveness. It's just this non-stop barrage of ever worsening imagery. But
it's funny though. Did you find it depressing?
I don't know. I've never found it comical. I found it comical in the sense that it never gets any better. Like it's like, oh, okay, I'll go here. Maybe it'll be better. Nope, that's crap. Well, maybe if I go here, it might be a bit better. No, that's even fucking worse. And it just has this like perfect sense of expectations and dash dreams that constantly come back on you time and time again. And the sun's a wilted flower, the stars are golden flies, the moon was a rotten piece of wood, which is a great line. And it's a very glasses half empty kind of guy song. Yeah. And just the way it has like and then it it does infuse the quality of the writing with that very childlike narrative sense. You can imagine Casey Waits nagging his dad for a bedtime story, and Tom turns around in almost a very like Jack Torrance fashion, and he's like, "I'll give you a bedtime story, all right." Right. And, you don't get that gleefully satisfied laugh at the end. Like Tom is the titular bastard in this song, isn't he? Yeah. And to be fair, I couldn't imagine a kid being horrified by the story or anything. It is just kind of.
Maybe just the use of piss.
Yeah.
They're just like,
no, Daddy. Well, on the next episode, Tom's going to be dropping a few f-bombs, isn't he?
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, this is actually a funny thing was on the Tom Waits library. Big up them. We're going to probably do a 10-minute alma mater to them on the final episode. But they've got the original Wojciech dialogue for this. Little children's tale, and Google Translate to its credit, when I popped it in, it came up word perfect to the way Tom Waits reads it. So yeah, well done Google Translate. This is a nice little breath of fresh air after the first song that's just so utterly crushing. This one, it does have that little bit of brevity to it. It's like, okay, not all these bastards are going to be aggressive bastards. Some of these might be a little bit sly, be a little bit slick, trying to outsmart you perhaps. And I just feel like a lot of these spoken word tracks, I don't really come back to them. Right. Like Ninth and Hennepin, I will come back to. Like you talked about the element of music and spoken word coming together perfectly. Diamonds on My Windshield's another great example. Yeah. And on here, it does seem a little bit sparse in terms of that really catchy hook underneath a lot of it. And I mean, Tom Waits' voice is one of the most beautiful instruments on this album. Like, not much chance, like especially on like Nirvana, was like completely cut from purpose. Like like, he does have the right voice for the right track each time.
Ideal, and I think Hey Ho is a great example of that, of his voice just adapting so brilliantly. I mean, I think this song is great. The feeling, feeling of being, low down, subterranean in some diamond mine. The pickaxe percussion, the breaking of the glass, the sense of galloping and building. It's a great trundle of a song, isn't it? Like, this is deep down blues in, Snow White country. The old off-pitch horns blaring at you, the minecart bell. Like, he really went full on with the sound effects here. It just sounds terrific. And he was saying, actually, in 2006 that actually... so obviously this is a cover. This was on a sort of children's album, wasn't it?
Stay Awake, the various interpretations of music from vintage Disney films from 1988.
Yeah, and he was saying that Disney actually tried to, quote, in 2006, actually Disney tried to sue us after the record came out because they said, you may have changed all the words. And no, those are, and I went back and got at the lyrics, and those are the lyrics, actually. They are the same. Exactly what are we saying? So I thought that was kind of ironic, and just basically talk about how this huge argument they got in as well, and, he was kind of using the dig in the mine, digging our minds all day long, dig, that sort of thing. To him as well, he was saying a bit earlier, it's an adult's view of work. Off to work we go. It's a little more of a grown-up approach to the concept of the American work ethic. It's a little more out of focus. It's a little scratchier. It's a little violent, I think, and... the chug of the harmonica as well. I just love this world.
I guess this song is proof as to why Tom Waits never got to do the soundtrack for Frozen. I love talking about songs on this podcast that we never actually really gave the time of day, and then subsequently, re-uncovered in a deep dark mine. And this is one of them. Right. I adore this song with a passion. It's one of the highlights of the album for me.
Yeah.
This song does have a bit of a special place in my heart. I can remember back in the day when I was a wee toddler in Brown Hills, England, a very obscure little backwater council estate area, and me and my nan and my granddad would sling shovels over our shoulders and march up and down the garden path singing hi ho, hi ho. Wow. And I must admit, and I reckon the same might be true for a lot of people out there, no one knows this song besides hi ho, it's off to work we go. Like I went back to the original Disney one, and I don't remember it going dig 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 dig. I do not remember any of that. And it's like it's not the bare necessities in terms of like complicated music. It would have been nice for maybe Tom Waits to do this album a few years later and do some stuff from Aladdin. But yeah, this is a song that is completely joyless in terms of what it's trying to present from work. Like I say, it's that more adult version, and it just really drills in the reality of how work, especially mining work, like getting things like black lung would just suck. And it's just such a great genius reinterpretation of the character of the dwarves. Like again, exactly another Tom Waits cover. He's completely done a whole overhaul, removing anything you'd come to expect from this song, and just like he almost makes them seem like obsessively greedy, and like to the point where they're almost like half mad to be doing this job. And like you say, we've got a lot of those indistinguishable industrial sounds, so like making me think of things like Big in Japan or Shore Leave, but there's just this clang of heavy duty mining equipment. Like the dwarves seem much more heavily armed this time, and we've got that Delta blues harmonica that comes back. It makes it an Orphans song again. But this song is just, it's like it is emerging from a dark cave, and it has that deep, distant, reverberating off the stony walls type feel to it. And again, it is just genuinely creepy. And all those happy-go-lucky dwarves that we once knew and loved are just dead. And it's just replaced with this almost like repetitive mania. Like they just have to keep digging, and we don't even know what. Like they say like
well, they don't know what they're digging for.
They say like a million diamonds shine down there, and it's like, do they though? If it were true, you probably would have found something, and you could stop digging. Maybe it's like Smaug. Once you've got it all, you'll still keep digging. I knew I'd get a Hobbit reference in this before we died.
And just before we jump onto Army Ants, Waits was interviewed in Playboy magazine.
There's so many good quotes about this song, isn't there?
yeah, there are. March 1988, and I'm actually one of the places that I'm going away, delaying bad as me, is to Florida, to Orlando, to Disneyland.
Good luck with that.
And Waits said, quote, "Disneyland is Vegas for children. When I went with kids, I just about had a stroke. It's the opposite of what they say it is. It's not a place to nurture the imagination. It's just a big clearance sale for useless items. I'm not going back, and the kids won't be allowed to return until they're 18 out of the house, and even then I would block their decision.
Could you imagine Tom Waits at Disneyland? He would look so depressed. He'd look so sad. Like, do you remember in the Lego movie when Batman goes to that really happy, super fun world? It'd be kind of like that. Just, I hate this place. You know, he's just not built for it.
He's much more happy with his insect facts.
Yeah, this is a real buzzing hive of fantastic little trivia bits. Waits was talking about it in The Plain Dealer, where he just basically calls it. It's just a dissertation. A lot of is just field guides from the Audubon Society. It still requires organising the facts in a meaningful fashion. I'm interested in all those things. They're all true, you know. And this is just before we dive right in. I can't think of any other example in a Tom Waits song where it does this. So this might be a rarity, in that he directly uses something that he's already previously made. Like he essentially recycles the same creepy bass beat that starts off "Oily Night" from the Black Rider. And I actually had to remind myself of which song off the Black Rider it was on. So I just went onto Google and typed in Tom Waits Army Ants beat, and it actually took me back to our own blog where we'd actually talked about it some months ago. So I was like, oh, well, that's handy.
That is good.
Thank you, six months ago, me. But yeah, this is the best Tom Waits pub quiz trivia song. Like all of these. You know, he's taught me so much about love, murder, the world, cars, and now, you know, I'm armed with a little expertise in anthropology as well. You know, these are all dark and weird facts. But, you know, this isn't anything you're going to be learning in a kindergarten about insects. You know, we don't learn that ants can lift 10 times their own weights. And it's I think a lot of these facts are begging to be interpreted in many other ways, as if they're meant to reflect something about us humans. Like, you can't look at me in the eye and say, the female praying mantis devours the male whilst they are still mating, and, you know, she bites off all of his own torso. How can that not be meant to be interpreted on some level about real relationships? You know, he could be saying something.
Maybe.
I mean, I'm sure he's not saying it about.
So I mean, what are you saying, that Tom is harking back to his barfly days when he's talking about the scorpion going mad with the liquor?
Yeah. Maybe. Oh, actually, maybe. Actually, that's a.
I actually disagree with your point, and I was mocking it. But,
to be fair, you came with a better example than I did when I was trying. But
yes, I for me more. I think it's less. I mean, it's less about kind of the metaphor. It's more about the fact. You know, Tom just likes talking about this sort of shit. He turns up to interviews supposedly with a notebook of facts that he'll quote from in lieu of giving real answers. You've seen him on Letterman, etc., and Fallon and Conan, and just reeling off these things and not going into any depth about anything that he wants to do. And this is just him kind of putting that interview persona into song form. And you know, similar to Fish in the Jailhouse, it's very satisfying to hear Waits say certain things. I love hearing him saying spiny tail mechanism with hooks and a protracted tube from the abdomen to enable moisture absorption.
Moisture absorption is one of the best Waitsian deliveries ever. Moisture absorption. It's just and like, I love how there's a species of ant called the sanguinary ant. Beautiful. Obviously, you've also got that wonderfully meta line, as we discussed last semester. The army ants will leave nothing but your bones, which is probably one of his most direct references to any of his other songs. Obviously,
very wink, right?
Earth Died Screaming, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. Machine. And then it ends with that line that kind of makes me think of films like Mimic or Men in Black, where like he's like bugs secretly like live amongst us and stuff, and like it makes me think like, I get these horrible images of like a giant man-sized cockroach or something like that. But you know, obviously he's just saying we humans too display both our predatory and defensive characteristics, and you know we are no better than these tiny little monsters themselves, but we are both animals.
And I like the instrumentation as well. Like, you have the kind of very typical dum 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 kind of bass to it, but it's not as rigid as it seems. There's odd little breathy percussion at times. Occasional notes will peel off. Like, it's really strong backing. But we'll push on to a song that I'm like, is that you bastards? Book of Moses.
Oh, hello, brawlers.
Brawlers, sorry.
Yeah.
Is that you, Brawlers? It's got a good groove. It's anchored by these old, reliable blues acoustic shapes. I like the fact that he didn't go for the distorted guitar in this, because it could have phased the song out a little bit. You know what I mean? He goes a bit more kind of... I mean, Waits and Moses go hand in hand, don't they?
Oh.
It's like Jason, Aaron and Moses, if anyone's reading The Goddamned. It's got that good percussion as well. Sounds like drops of water slightly. It adds to the hustle of the song. I know you're not too much of a fan of this one, but you've got to respect the kind of just the...
I was. Have you heard the original version by Skip Lee Spence?
Skip.
Yeah.
No.
There's something that he does in that song that I do actually prefer over the Waits version. That he overlays this thunderous rainstorm over the whole track, and it kind of gives it a certain biblical element. And I was kind of thinking, if that didn't have it, that's something Tom probably would have done to add to make it a bit more unique. I don't know why this isn't a brawler. I mean, it so clearly is with that dirty, fuzzy guitar and the funny vocals, and. Like, I know you've kind of hinted that I'm not the biggest fan of this song. I actually was at one point, before I kind of knew what Bastards really was, and I was a bit green and wet behind the ears. I don't really like to be challenged. This was kind of like my intro song into Bastards. I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of a bit more palatable. But just because I'm not a massive fan of it now, it kind of doesn't hold up to me. And just because I think it's on the wrong album, doesn't mean I still don't think it's a. It's a fine song. I just think it's kind of lost in the harbour amongst the more extreme moments on Bastards, and I can't help but feel like perhaps if it was on Brawlers, where it may have got lost amongst the other Brawlers, I may have liked it more. But that there is a very commanding twang to the riff. Like it is that no nonsense Tom Waits guitar style. I don't think Rabot makes a single appearance on this third album.
I don't think so, no. Like you say, it's got a kind of Old Testament shuffle.
Do the Old Testament shuffle, yeah.
Yeah, do the Metropolitan Glide. I like the melodic twist downwards sometimes, like, got some splinters, didn't you? And there's something quite mythic and epic about the closing when he basically the lyrics are books of Moses bringing stone news, wet is the water, blood covering the sun, books of Moses, myth and truth. Books of Moses, bring me back to you. And it just has this kind of books of Moses. It just kind of, it's constantly propulsive forward, isn't it? But I think we should move on because it's not kind of a real standout, is it?
Yeah, like you say, we got some very there's good backing vocals in this one. I wanted to say just before.
Not a bad track, yeah.
We've got some nice upright bass which we haven't heard in a while. But yeah, it is kind of just it is there, and like. If people want to say Tom's trying to fill out Bastards, I mean, there are lots of examples of that. Fortunately, Bone Chain's not one of them.
Although it is the kind of sound that Tom can't leave behind, can he? Yeah, I mean, he chicka booms in this song.
Yeah, it is. You actually do hear bits of
chicka
boom. It's a real short and sweet one here. You can understand why it's a bastard. And it just seems to be like if I had to pick what is the Orphans era recording sound of Tom Waits, it would be this song. It's just a very good old-fashioned studio jam session, nothing more. And whilst that, at first glance, I might be hinting that it might be quite an inconsequential song, it really isn't, because first and foremost, it's just so damn fun to listen to, and for a glorified jam session overlaid with sort of like madman barking, it's still like remarkably like arresting and groovy. It's essentially just Delta Blues 2006 Tom Waits sound meets real gone barking beatboxing Tom Waits sound smushed together. And I've said it before on this podcast and I'll say it again, Tom, why did you forsake me and not use any beatboxing on Bad As Me? I bought it on vinyl and it came in the post today. And like I'm looking at all the track lists, I'm like, yeah, I love you, Last Leaf, Razor's Right Men, you're fantastic, but a little bit of a chicka boom would have just really sold it to me, because it's just fun. You Tom's having fun when he's playing with his vocal pump organ. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I dig this song a lot. The vibed out, moonshiny rhythm guitar, the kind of harmonica wheeze, reliable as ever. It's kind of a palate cleanser, isn't it? It's like just over a minute. It's kind of a familiar blues trundle in it. I mean, it's useful if you listen to the track listing on vinyl in order, because it leads into a total left field number now. The next song, which is an amazing song for me personally. I do love this song, Two Sisters.
Yeah, this is great, isn't it?
I love the fact that it's. I mean, the song sounds so sad, even if you don't know what's going on, and the story itself is tragic as well. Really weird lyrics, beautiful lyrics, but I love the fact that Waits is resurrecting a very old song here. I'm not sure exactly when it's from, but I know that it's quite a few hundred years old. And you've got that tragic violin line that's playing with Waits' voice. And, I mean, he sounds so good singing with instruments, doesn't he? He's always done so well. I'm not saying just him and the piano. I'm talking about, say, Step Right Up, when you have, Pete Christeleb on that, alto sax, kind of just with him. Kind of he's got such a great inner rhythm in his vocals. He really knows how to go out here. But, yeah, the bow, balance of me, there was an hour. It just had that kind of sea shanty, Moby Dick, end of the voyage kind of, feel to it, queequeg guy. And the basic story is an old woman lives by the sea and has 4 daughters. A suitor comes and takes to the youngest one, buying her a beaver hat. The older sister gets jealous and encourages the younger sister to accompany her to the seashore to see the ships. Here, she pushes the younger sister over, and it seems that the younger sister, as she's falling, realises what's happening and tries to bargain with the older sister, who's holding her over the pier, saying, we can share Willie or whatever, we can share this this suitor.
I'll give you Willie and all his land, yeah.
Right. She refuses, and then she drowns, or she's thrown in the water, and the miller fishes her out and then gets done for it. It's fucked, man. It's got a really, really dark...
the fucked up thing is that... I was going to get into this a little bit more later, but when the miller, the fisherman, actually saves the girl, he fishes her out of the creek, and then the sister comes to the fisherman, and then offers him 5 gold coins to toss her back in, and it's very much one of those Tom Waits songs where it's the wrong person got done, or a woman managed to manipulate a man into it's got shades of Widow's Grove, it's got shades of Lucinda. Sure. He was obviously writing a lot of these types of songs around this point. Maybe Kathleen had hidden the remote from him or something, and he was just mad. But it's just the way how in this song, not only does murder happen, in Widow's Grove, it's just one push done. In this, it's he pushes her over the cliff, begs for her life, then chooses to still kill her again. Then not only does the sister survive this, but she's saved again, and then the sister comes back for a second time to make sure the job is done. This is real.
Oh, I always had her as she washed up dead though, and it was just kind of get rid of the body.
Oh, I always saw her as she kind of survived.
Right. I just don't know how you would survive, but we're given very scant details. Yeah. But I mean that's kind of part of these ancient tales, isn't it? But yeah, Waits has never since or before had a song that sounds like this.
No,
we've had songs that sound like they're recorded in the ancient world before, but there's just the unbelievable depth of sadness that wrenches through. Just every time he's saying "bow balance me," "I'll stay true to my love if you stay true to me," this constant refrain that gets sadder and sadder, and then you have that moment when the violin breaks above the song and just gives a little jig on its own and just it careens us off and out. It's just wow.
Obviously, I think
wonderful.
Tom's had this bone to itch ever since he went on his honeymoon with Kathleen to Ireland. The closest we probably got was something like "Take Care of All of My Children," which had a similar kind of feel to it. But this is almost like a Scottish Celtic version of an organised dance number. Obviously the bow balance to me refrain. It does have that kind of do the funky chicken kind of dance to it.
And sorry, it's just worth saying in the final stanza, the miller is hung for killing the sister. Yeah. The miller was hung in the old mill gate. Bow balance of me. The miller was hung in the old mill gate for drowning little sister Kate. And then I'll be true to my love, if my love will be true to me.
Yeah, that's why I thought she did so, because he put but that's the judge what he thought might have happened. Yeah,
right.
But yeah, it's a great narrative. It is a great companion piece to Widow's Grove in terms of what the power of jilted women. But for me, what I love about the song is kind of the atypical delivery of the words, and it doesn't strain itself to fit the established structure of how the song works. Unlike Shiny Things, where it feels kind of laboured and forced, this one, with its kind of ancient Celtic folky charm to it, with that off-kilter sound, creates something very unique in terms of Tom Waits' canon, and it's just so effective.
It's a wonderful, wonderful track, but it's always stayed with me. I remember hearing it when I was younger, going through Orphans, and it just kind of was always something that I remembered, just because it was quite vivid and offers a lot of reflection.
Is it a vivid memory for you as your first kiss?
Yes, perhaps so. This is kind of a classic Waits list song, isn't it?
Oh, see,
just going through all the different things she has. What's that tone I detect in your voice?
See, I would have thought you'd probably not be a fan of this one. You did not like Circus from Real Gone, and
No, I prefer the world of this song though. I think kind of like it's mixed between kind of she's just sort of the sewing machine with the alligator egg light, and then the fact that she has wings. Like it just kind of goes between the insane.
Isn't this just another collection of oddball Tom Waits imagery, kind of stitched together crudely to form some semblance of a narrative thread? Because obviously this song comes from weird origins. It was first released as a combination of two poems, one by Waits, another by a chap named Ken Nordine, where they kind of Lennon McCartney'd I've Got a Feeling, A Day in the Life to them together into a single entity called 1,000 Bing Bangs.
Right.
Which appeared on Nordine's album Devout Catalyst, which is a great title.
That is a good title.
Basically, First Kiss was Waits' contribution to that partnership. So it'd be like a kind of a call and answer thing. So Ken Nordine would read a line from his song poem, and then Tom would read a line from his, and that would create something called 1,000 Bing Bangs. And yeah, it's a very fun little poem. It's the eponymous she, as with so many Waitsian songs. It's a very vivid and detailed character. We do seem to know everything and nothing about her at all. Can we trust what Tom's saying about her? Because not only is she this weirdly deep, dark person, but also he's the one kissing her. Is he a man who's kissing this strange woman, or were they children when they first kissed? And is this a song about how life can change and people who you once knew and may loved kind of just become these horrific caricatures later in life? It's another Tom Waits song with a twist about a woman. The twist, however, is unfortunately ruined by the title, Return of the King style.
Yeah.
I don't know, I feel like in terms of spoken word pieces on this album, I find it's one of the most predictable and bland, if I'm honest.
I don't know if it's bland. It is predictable, I agree. You do know what's coming, don't you? And when it does happen, you do still laugh. It's nice when it comes. It begins with like a ungodly kind of nightmare clatter, doesn't it? It's got a really weird world of spoken word tune going on.
Yeah.
And there's that backward production, isn't there? Kind of like Shake It, which is my personal favourite off Real Gone, when you go, you're like warping back as the song goes on. It does have this sense both of nostalgia and just kind of experience, a sense of transportalism. But I love the detail. She had an Easter bonnet that had been signed by Tennessee Ernie Ford. Of course, no idea who that guy is. He was, according to YouTube, an American recording artist and television host who enjoyed success in country and western, pop and gospel music singers. So he's like a 60s guy, so Waits just popping him in there. I just love that in Waits. That's one of my favourite things about his whole lyric thing. It's just how he'll go in there and just reference little towns or little places or little ideas. Yeah. And when she got good and drunk, she would drink about Elkhart, Indiana, which I like to think Waits picked that just because Elkhart is a great name for like a little town or a city or whatever. But I actually went onto Elkhart's Wikipedia page, and they have a population of 50,000, and they are known as the RV capital of the world.
Okay.
So anyone from Elkhart, Indiana, want to get in touch? That'd be great. TomWaitsPodcast@gmail.com, or anything else, Orphans or Bad As Me related. But yeah, I get what you're saying. It is kind of, and some of the lines are a little bit,
like
she lived in a trailer under the bridge. She had loads of baseballs. It was like he's playing on a lot of, but there's enough good stuff here to keep it going.
Yeah. We also get the mention of suicide doors, which are also mentioned in Putting on the Dog on this album as well. I don't know. I just don't really enjoy this song. I rarely, if ever, return to it as a work. It is nice and oddball. It is very warped and demented in that sense, and I almost feel like it's like he's writing about an anti-Kathleen. Like whenever you get these like quotes from like Mojo or Enemy or something like that, and Waits will talk about Kathleen, he'll just do she can do this, she
she's a spark in the
feet, she can fix an engine, she can wash and dry with her feet. She was a nun, she's like everything, and it is the antithesis of everything he feels about Kathleen, and Kathleen wasn't his first kiss either. So
no, I like the fact though, just to close up, that as the song ends,
there's that little bit at the end.
The little, we should just mention Kathleen. but the singing bit at the end sings off.
Oh, my little Kathleen.
I'm talking about he is talking about Kathleen, but obviously he's playing on that. One of the things that I really like is as the actual verse ends, we get the sense of intimacy as you feel her getting closer. So you get all these kind of abstract descriptions that are kind of grey. She made up her own language and she wore rubber boots. But then you have, as we're coming into this, she gave me her first kiss. We have the two lines before, and she smelt like gasoline and root beer fizz. So you have the idea of her kind of getting nearer to your face. And she put mud on a bee sting I got at the creek. So there's that sense of intimacy. And that's just a great description, isn't it, as well? A bee sting he got at the creek.
Well, he calls it the crick, which I love as well. Just a nice little...
But we'll jump back into a song, Sam. Because we seem to be doing a lot of spoken word at the moment.
Oh, this song is mental.
Dog Door's crazy, right? This is a thrilling, like, kind of...
Yeah.
Crazy, like, fun house of tape loops and madness. And...
Do you have any idea who Sparkle Horse are?
I honestly don't. I'd heard the name, and I know they're quite a kind of respected. Maybe it's a guy, maybe it's the band or whatever. But I only know them through this song, and this song was on their '99 album. I believe.
Looks like a bit of like a maybe they're a bit of a Nine Inch Nails type group.
Right? Yeah, perhaps. Yeah.
Mark Link.
They're very sludgy, aren't they? They've got that guitar kind of heaviness.
Yeah, there was an interview with the lead singer, Mark Linkus, sorry, and he said, I did this one song that wasn't very good. I sent it to him, meaning Tom Waits, a tape so that he could do the part. He did it and sent it back, but it got lost in the mail, a very Alice type story.
Yeah.
That was a big loss. That led to doing Dog Door. I had done the music already, but I was having difficulty with the words and melody. It was more like a dirge than a pop song. I called Tom and I said, I have this cool sounding track, but I can't finish it. I wonder if you want to take a shot at it. I sent it to him and he said, yeah, I'll come out here. I got something. I flew out and went to his studio. And something that's quite cool in the music video for this song, which is absolutely insane as well, kind of like what if Marilyn Manson was in control of the Muppet Show. It's right. like two marionettes, like one being like a semi-singing fox, these very jaunty actions, and the other being like this helpless baby with its legs spread uncomfortably wide, like rocking back and forth, like lots of weird crotch shots of like the baby's nappy and stuff. But it just reinforces how uncomfortable this song is. Yeah. But what I do like, it says Sparkle Horse, and then it goes vocals and lyrics by Tom Waits, and then like it goes again and it says and Kathleen Brennan. I was like, finally Kathleen's getting some recognition out there from this tiny band I've never heard of.
and this is a very similar song to First Kiss in a sense, isn't it? Like naming a woman and all the things she is and all that.
Yeah,
kind of stuff.
It's a very brutalistic industrial miasma, though, isn't it? Like this is a song that we've never really heard Tom do before or since, really. I know which part of this song that we both love. Pitchfork, crowbar. Yeah. And I think I've mentioned this before with songs like
Clawhammer is just the best.
Clawhammer. With songs like By the Way by the Chili Peppers or Monkberry Moon Delight by McCartney. These are just like a list of short, snappy phrases chosen for their aural quality rather than kind of like lyrical meaning. But they are kind of like all evil, dark things though, so there probably is a bit more of an essence to them. I don't know, like this is such a thick song, like it's almost like molasses. Like the initial rhythm, it just scrambles me so much. I don't know what to make it.
Yeah,
really.
You have to get used to it, don't you? You have to get your foot in when you listen to a song like this. And I should say it's from 2001's "It's a Wonderful Life" by Sparkle Horse. Sorry, not 1999. And it's from 2001. And what's interesting is, in the final verse, there are two references to songs that Waits would later release. She Can Make It Rain and Just Starving in a Belly of a Whale. Mm-hmm. So these are clearly kind of things he was playing on. But yeah, I mean, the kind of clipped back in vocals that come in almost give you this almost nauseous sense of moving between worlds. The heaviness of Tom, it's so blatantly fudding, isn't it? There's a great slide and crunch.
His voice is so unsettlingly falsetto, though.
Yeah.
Like it's just like you're almost trapped in like some sort of we're all mad here kind of asylum, and then like he's got that gruffer voice that like comes out of nowhere, which is almost nonsensical, really. But he's absolutely
it's a lot of this song is tough to work out.
It's raving. But yeah, but like you say, it is just another one of those she songs, and I do like the central conceit that he loves a woman so much and he's so under her spell that she has him crawling through the dog door, and like obviously she's brought him down to this animalistic level, and the song reflects that perfectly, really.
Well, I mean, don't get it backwards, because I think this song is murder, and don't get it backwards, but the next song is Murder. This is Red Rum.
I think it's I've just realised I actually made a Shining reference earlier in this podcast with Jack Torrance.
Right,
so
there we
yeah,
go.
it's more than suitable than a Wait Should too.
And this is what Bastards is for, right?
Yeah.
1 minute 12 of sputtering weirdness.
Yeah, it's another highlight of the album for me. Really, it's like something from Ghost again by Nine Inch Nails. Another reference. Actually.
Oh yeah, amazing instrumental album.
It's
yeah.
This song is just such an enigmatic electronic synth foray into the world of like fuzzy impending doom. Really, like it is a genuine attempt in my mind at trying to score a nightmare. Like I could imagine just like this being used in any horror movie to such effect. Like it be in black and white, tilted camera angles. It'd be like someone like falling through a dream or something. It's so terrible
because it's just constantly repeating, isn't it? There's a sense of the homemade and the junkyard about the melody and the nature of it. Just kind of like it's just the same kind of like motif, just on and on and on and on. And there's a slight chord breakdown and it just goes on and on and on. And I fucking love it. I'm just trying to check. Wait, do you remember where it was from? Oh no, I can't. There's no thing on Tom Waits library for its
It's
origin.
an original.
Is it original?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, to me, there's kind of almost a classical edge to the song's kind of bass roots, like kind of like it's almost like a demented cover of something that doesn't exist, and there's just something about the long, twisted, weirdly upbeat notes towards the end that make it like that sort of da-da-da. It makes it feel like it wouldn't be out of place in like a 1920s expressionistic German horror film about vampires. It does have that very kind of
for sure, yeah,
dark,
kind of like Dave the Butcher.
Yeah, you definitely. It kind of reminds me of a Knife Chase as well from Blood Money, and just its ability to create a sinister atmosphere in literally no time at all. Like I wish it were a little longer, like a Knife Chase. Actually,
but that almost adds to it, doesn't it? It's just this glimpse of this world, and then it's just we're into the softer embrace of Nirvana, which is we had one of the opening emails discussing this song, and it is a gorgeous song. I've always loved this song ever since I first got into Orphans when I was younger. I think that the backing is gentle and wonderful. You can really imagine the winding mountain and the snow and the diner and the dishwasher in the back with his good, clean, pleasant laugh, and the food was good. And what is the message of this poem to you? Because it is very. That's what I really like about the song. It really opens it up to you. There is a kind of narrative, but it's kind of like, what are you being asked to assess here? Is it the man's decision? Is it the way he looks at the world? Is it the idea of just being in one place and realizing how tiny you are and that make you happy? Or?
Well, like, to me, like on the kind of surface veneer level, this is a poem song about how simple things in life can, just do that, like be Nirvana. However, when he says the people around him don't notice the magic, it kind of raises questions, like purely from a lack of wider knowledge about the character. Like this is an interesting poem because it's a great little snippet of a wider story. Like you come in right in the middle of a guy on his journey to somewhere. He doesn't even tease where he's from or where he's going. All that matters is this little thin slice of life moment, and essentially it kind of makes you wonder if, is this just about a wider appreciation of little things in life, that perhaps it's because his own life is so bad that this momentary spell of earnest happiness means all the world to him, and it may show that just how people with their happy lives may take for granted what amazing things do happen around you if you're only to stop and look. Like this character is only happy here because on the whole he's probably very, very sad and depressed. Like he does feel like I do feel so alone on that bus with him, where everyone's just busy, and like he pretends to fall asleep, which is such a weird image to me. Like he could just try and fall asleep, but he'd rather kind of be in the company of others without them knowing, almost. Like this is definitely the most peaceful track on Orphans. It's almost like a spoken word piece from Alice in terms of its sort of heartbreak, and
I think it's one of his best later era tracks.
Yeah,
like,
it definitely.
Apropos of any album, like I don't know what it is about it. I've always loved it, and I know that it's a cover, so it's kind of not entirely his, but I just think the melding works so perfectly. And he was interviewed in 2006 for Word magazine, and they were saying the Charles Bukowski poem Nirvana, about a young man on the road stopping in a cafe and being struck dumb with a sense of wonder. Then they quote it: the curious feeling swam through him that everything was beautiful there, that it would always stay beautiful there. What I love about that Bukowski poem is that it's completely unapologetic in its sense of wonder, completely innocent and open-hearted. Then Tom says, "Yeah, and we're all been on that bus when you wish you could just freeze everything right now. Like people say, shoot me. Things are good. Shoot me right now. The moment in church in Arizona was like that for me. Of course, in that community, you wouldn't want to say that, shoot me, because they would. But yeah, delightful song, and as was teased there, the ending of the song as well.
Yeah.
There was not. It's such a poem ending. There was nothing else to do, just to listen to the sound of the engine and the sound of the tires in the snow.
To me, it's just the way that he's like, okay, I do want to pay tribute to Bukowski, so he's gonna pick the one that will sound like a perfect Tom Waits song. And we just got that, like we were talking about, instrumentation in these songs. There's a very heartfelt and somber oboe in the background. It's very beautiful, and it fits the world so wonderfully. And I love like I say, Waits with one instrument, especially he's so defined by the piano, but he can do with guitar, and here we can do with oboe. In a 2002 interview with Soma magazine, Waits was kind of talking about Bukowski as one of his references. Obviously, anyone who's listened to our conversations about The Heart of Saturday Night or A Closer Time, when he was a bit more of the beat poet type, obviously how influenced by this guy he is. And Waits would say, Bukowski was like a big bear. He had this enormous head as big as Frankenstein. He had a big presence and huge shoulders, and that face that looks like a mask, a scary mask. I was still drinking, so it was I was still fascinated with him. He was like, I don't know what you call it, a mentor? Well, he was many things, like all of us. But I think that what he got towards the end of his life was, and did last night of Earth Poems, it softened him. My favourite is called Nirvana. You'd like that one. It's about a young boy on a bus going to nowhere in particular. And he says, I could stay here my whole life, just right here. Then it ends up getting back on the bus and going away. You should read it, of course. He's a planet waiting to be explored. And it was a great exploration. This song is a great little microcosm of the world in itself. I think Waits was so right when you just read that. Everyone has been on that bus. And obviously Waits just gone, I'm going to do a great poem by Bukowski, and I'm just going to pick this one, as it just perfectly emulates everything that I try and get across in my own writing. That sense of world building, that sense of little things that just take pure little snippets out of real life. And the way the washing machine laughed, a good clean laugh, can't help but remind me a lot of The Piano Has Been Drinking, Not Me. I wonder if that perhaps had influenced that song somewhere at all. Who knows?
But this is the Tom that ultimately, I do love best. Him at the piano, him with these beautiful yearning lyrics, and the next song on this album, Home I'll Never Be, is very similar. And I've got to say, there are two versions of this, as an earlier email also stated. There's this version, which is a slower, kind of more intimate piano version. There's also a kind of more rowdier version, a version that makes more sense as an on-the-road version, perhaps. Because obviously this song is a Jack Kerouac poem, kind of explicitly dealing with that kind of beat idea, which Tom has done numerous times throughout his career and will continue to do. And I love this version, the gorgeous swampy piano. Waits sounds live almost, it's like he and the speaker are sharing a channel, almost intertwined. There's a croaky reach to his voice, Montana in a cold, it just has this great darkness and like the beat life. And we saw this in Jack and Neil, and numerous other references, Heart of Saturday Night, etc. The beat life is painted as this kind of glorious, freewheeling, hitching on the back of a ride, staying up all night kind of life. But Waits here is, just dwelling on the sadness of it, the tragedy of the beat life, kind of moving, the constant travelling, the nomadic sense. The protagonist here meets his father in an old pool hall. Maybe his father was a beat like he, and the piano calls that just come in after he saw that sound like My Father Died in the Cold Rain, and it's just wonderfully moving track, and the piano is just gorgeous here. It has this dictatorial quality. You can really feel it kind of taking the song and leading it on and providing conversation and elegance rather than just dull strums that normally accompany these sort of songs. I also quickly just want to recommend a fantastic album called These Roads Don't Move by Jay Farrar and Benjamin Gibbard. One of them from Def Cab for Cutie, I believe. But basically it's them covering, they're all new folk songs, but all the lyrics are Jack Kerouac poems or writings of Jack Kerouac, and it's fantastic, really, really good. One Fast Mover, I'm Gone is a brilliant song off that, check it out. But cool. This is a lovely addition, isn't it? The melodic grit, the build up back to those glorious high pitched notes, old freight trains. This is meat and potatoes, isn't it? But in the best possible way.
Meat and potatoes. It really is. Obviously the story deals with also things like absent fathers, children lost in the world. And again, very much like the last one, Waits has gone, right, I want on a Kerouac now as well. You know, he helped me things right, like Diamonds on my Windshield. I'm going to pick another song that will totally fit both my mode and his. It's a great little tragic song. When I first came to it, I thought it was kind of like a little inoffensive fare, and you know, I didn't really put that much effort into it. But then when I heard On the Road, and my opinions on that coming soon, I kind of went back to it, and I went back to it with a lot more favour. It's much more earnest. It's a lot more honest. I love the dad dying of pneumonia in the rain, and the success of this track is really turning a spoken word poem into an actual song, unlike Nirvana. Like the way he turns the refrain in the poem to become like a proper little, you know, standalone chorus in this one is achieved really well. I would have preferred this song to have the same kind of throat and power of a song like Down There by the Train. It is a little lackluster in the sort of ballad department. Not obviously not of the lyrics, of course, purely just the delivery. But you could say the downtrodden type character wouldn't have such an uplifting kind of voice. Waits was talking in Now magazine. We seem to be a big podcast dedicated to plugging Mojo and Now magazine, apparently.
Of course.
Waits said, Kerouac's nephew had this song of Jack's, or at least some of his words they wanted me to record. I guess Jack was at a party somewhere and snuck off into a closet and started singing into a real tape deck like, I left you in New York in 1949, yada yada yada. I was always looking for a father figure, and these guys sort of became my fathers. Reading on the Road added some interesting mythology to the ordinary and sent my life on the road myself with an investigative curiosity about the minutiae of life. So yeah, Tom, you know, obviously people like Allen Ginsberg as well. Waits is just so like, I know how we've said like he will look back at his career, and he's kind of glad that it went the way it did. Obviously with the Frank stuff and then the Cerebral phase, but he's still very much indebted to these earlier.
Of course, yeah,
definitely.
Of course, and worth saying as well, it's in part 4 of On the Road, chapter 2.
Oh, okay.
Where basically Jack Kerouac is singing a little song, which is home in Missalua, home in Truckee, ain't no home for me, home in Omadora, home in Wounded Knee, home in Ogallala, home I'll never be. So there's a direct quote there in On the Road, which is pretty fucking cool. And yeah, this is a great song as well. I mean, we should maybe just do the other version now. We might as well when we're on the same track. What are your thoughts on the other On the Road version on this album?
Wow, if I had to pick a song not to end Bastards with, like if Tom Waits had died after this would have been his last official song, and it would have been bad. Does
it end it? Sorry, I didn't
realise.
Well,
it's the last official song. We have two little
yeah, it doesn't end it then. I know what you're saying, but
yeah, it's this is the big letdown on the album for me.
It's just very typical, isn't it?
I said before, like there are just some certain songs, like again, Jack and Judy, for example, where the opening sound or note just from the get go sends me the wrong way, and you just got that annoying twingy twangy hillbilly echo that just emits straight away. And I'm just like, yeah, fuck this kind of sound. The blues has gone too far south this time. You know, it's like, oh, come on, it's borderline chase music in The Simpsons.
Slightly, yeah, I know what you mean. It's kind of like, and a lot of the subtle melodic phrases of the original Home I'll Never Be are kind of ironed out by the bland rock of On the Road, and it just kind of like, you know, I know where they're going with it, but it's just not as fun as the more introspection.
You've got that lame duck call and answer segment with that like shrill tinny Waits on a megaphone voice. It's just it's like a bad outtake from Bone Machine. It's borderline parody, if anything.
Okay, well, I see you're pissed off, so we'll push on to Poor Little Lamb.
I'm so glad that obviously this podcast is coming to a bit of an end now, and we get to bring things a little bit full circle, because this is a song that was originally created for the first movie that we ever reviewed for our Real Gone segment.
Yes, it does feel obviously. That way, yeah.
Charles Champlin was talking in the Los Angeles Times, and he basically said, Waits wrote a song for Ironweed with its novelist screenwriter William Kennedy. It's called Poor Little Lamb, and Waits said, it's based on a poem he saw on the side of a bridge when he was a kid. Life's an empty cup is one of those lines.
Yeah.
It's like one of those nursery rhymes that you may understand one way when you're a kid and another way later on. Like Ring Around the Rosie, which is about scarlet fever, and when they all fall down dead. Okay, Poor Little Lamb. This is essentially, when you break it down into where Tom would have written this, this is literally just a Frank's Wild Years song, isn't it? It's the same voice, same studio overproduction, instrumentation. It's got that 77 RPM vinyl effect, which, when you consider the fact that Ironweed's set in the 20s is very fitting. Like, you can imagine one of the characters, namely Meryl Streep, singing this in some downtrodden bar after She's My Pal or whatever. This is a weird one, really, because we don't have the original transcript of the poem that Waits supposedly found scrawled under a bridge. Is this a Tom's tale? Or honestly, now Tom could just tell the truth about weird things, and we'd never believe him, purely because obviously he's built these yarns in the past. But it is a perfectly oddball source that Waits would use for inspiration. But yeah, the song itself. It's typically tragic, essentially, it's a little lamb all fleeceless, is out there in the cold, the coyotes are circling in. It's a very simple and effective metaphor. We all start out as poor little lambs, or suddenly you're made homeless and now you're defenseless, and the coyotes could be anything from the vagabonds on the street, or just the looming sense of death could always be near, and that would have fitted the film perfectly, really. And it's a shame it actually isn't on the soundtrack. It could have just been put over the closing credits.
Yeah, it could have done, for sure. I'm not sure why it wasn't used that way. It's an interesting number. Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's that memorable personally. I like the fact that
it's
and
it
ends with them talking about drinking lemonade, and it's quite a nice kind of positive end there. But yeah, like you say, it's quite interesting. It was found under a bridge, and that he was going to utilise it that way, and he utilises it, but there it is on the Ironweed soundtrack, unearthed until now, and it's a short little number as well. It's not necessarily something that's sticking too much in my mind on listen, but a good track.
Yeah, you do have that great line, nobody will get older if we don't find a way out of here. This is a great song about death. But sadly, on an album where, with such a wide range of styles, it seems together that there's such a cohesion to Bastards, weirdly, isn't there? And this song is very much of its own place, style, and album, and it's a Frank song, not a Bastard. Or maybe that's the point. I don't know. But to me, it kind of sticks out as an odd one that I really don't feel like fits the flow of the album very well.
No, I agree. And we'll push on from one song that was clearly a Frank's to one song that's clearly from the Grand Hall of Alice. Which is obviously one of Waits' very best albums. Altar Boy, Sam.
Yeah, obviously it was originally crafted for Alice, the album / play. It was sung by the Duchess and Mad Hatter in the Knee Scene 4. Check out our episode on the Black Rider to find out what a knee scene is. But essentially, the opening sounds of the church bells are very interesting in this song, don't you think? It doesn't really gel that well.
No, because they resolve to a bar room, don't they? It's kind of like a sort of show tune. Like sort of candles on the table, bring your mob wife kind of sort of thing, Elvis special.
It does kind of sardonically and ironically bookend the song quite nicely though, with wholesome thoughts of churches and God, and this is a song that really doesn't shout those praises at all, really. It's kind of like a crooning jazz breakup to be smacked in towards the end of Bastards. But yeah, wow, this is so Alice. You've got that sparse pinpoint piano, the moody woodwind, and that very theatrical brass section, and it all combines with that slightly twisted parody of friendlier music that would allow it to fit quite nicely on the Alice album. I don't know where you could have put this without overstuffing it. I know a lot of people think Real Gone and Mule Variations is a bit overstuffed in that sense as well, so it's probably best you didn't put it in. But as we discussed in our past episode of Alice, we kind of discussed the unsettling and uncomfortable relationship between Alice Liddell and Lewis Carroll. What's his name?
Charles Dodgson.
Charles Dodgson. And listening to this song, that post conversation kind of taints how I look at this song in a whole new light. So we know this guy is an ex-altar boy. So we know he's now grown up, and he was once a little boy, an altar boy. He's now depressed, and he's a habitual drunk in the park. He's looking for some good time from a woman dressed like a nun, but not a nun. And he's very concerned about a winking priest. So, what does all this point to? And basically, I kind of see this as a kid who was had something bad done to him by
Yeah.
a priest when he was younger. He cannot leave the fact that he was a young altar boy. And yes, I did watch Spotlight like 2
Right.
days ago on DVD, so this might be a little bit on my brain, a bit more than usual. But like, you know, why is he obsessed that the old priest never took a wife? And you know, he's you know, the winking priest still sends shivers down my spine. Perhaps I'm going a bit too far into it. Perhaps it's just a song about the idea of never growing up, being trapped in childhood. You know, the sense that he's an old altar boy, a man who's never really grown up. That does fit the themes of Alice
Entirely,
in Wonderland
and the danger
perfectly.
of repression.
But yeah, I think this is a very dark song.
Yeah, I don't mind this track. Again, it's not one that's stuck in my head that much, to be honest.
I couldn't imagine Johnny Depp's Mad Hatter.
No,
singing
it's
this one.
slightly too macabre. But the next song is one that I love, the Pontiac, which was
Oh, this is
originally
great,
released in 1987 on a spoken word compilation called Smack My Crack. Yeah, this is another spoken word track. This is Tom kind of speaking in length about cars, but I love the fact that in a sense the Pontiac could be about anything. It's more about reveling in the great deal of vocabulary of a thing. This is what Tom loves, isn't it? Language, how deep a nomenclature can go, how you can keep going into different ideas. Talk about the wind blow on the track across the stock, and you know, and just him kind of going in and out. Obviously the whole thing is him just talking about cars, isn't it? The whole thing, cars that he loved. His Aunt Evelyn's mentioned again, independent rear suspension, Landau top, good tyres, gas hog, I swear it had the power to repair itself. And finally at the end he mentions his Pontiac, and he stops being as verbose as he was, doesn't he? Kind of slows down a little, talks about how beautiful it handled, how much he misses it, and how it was a long time ago, and the song fades out. And it's a song of two things, really. On one hand, you can see it as a kind of Nirvana, like quite a moving piece, actually, at the end of the day, like him kind of recollecting on the past, and the idea of kind of memories being like cars and never really going to last that long and always going to live in your head, it's never going to be permanent. Or just kind of a fun step right up 25 years later, kind of, you know what I mean? Just kind of coming here with the pushing tin, you know, the fast talking car salesman kind of thing.
I love the masterful decision to include the sound of traffic passing by.
Yeah.
Like he's telling you the story inside another car. And like obviously Tom's sung about cars for so many years that it's high time that he actually did a love song directly about and for them. And what better way than doing a spoken word piece about Fairlanes, Tornadoes, Buicks, Thunderbirds, Cadillacs, and of course the Pontiac. It's a great little piece about what sticks in your memory if you're passionate enough about it. Like obviously any like good teacher at school, all they have to do is be passionate about the subject to make it interesting. And like, you know, this is kind of useless trivia like army ants, but this song is possibly more interesting because it is so trivial, yet it's delivered by someone who is so obviously exuding infinite passion for the topic. He does make it effortlessly interesting, but it's also got that kind of Broken Bicycles vibe to it, where it kind of does highlight the rather disposable nature of the physical elements of the cars, but honours that you know, how residual memories, you know, they can kind of linger even though inanimate objects they do go. And I kind of feel like in a bit of a Cemetery Polka kind of way, this is also a good kind of semi-autobiographical element of, I think everyone's got a member in their family quite like this. Waits is talking to the plain dealer, and the interviewer just asks him, how autobiographical is the Pontiac? And Waits says, that's my father-in-law. I ride down to the corner store with my father-in-law, talking about an endless catalogue of cars he owns, and the detail of which he remembers each one lovingly. So it's nice that Tom actually was quite a bit honest in this one. It's also got one of the best Tom Waits laughs ever. Just ha ha.
Yeah, and the wind on the microphone and the cars, as you say, and it's terrific. It's brilliantly recorded, greatly put together. I mean, quite a lot of these spoken word tracks, you can tell what kind of studio, but this is outside. This is done kind of on the fly, and
there's no dog or rooster though. Sadly,
no. There's a Thunderbird. But that's about it, unfortunately. But we'll push on. I love this track. I'll just say this song reminds me a little bit of Adam Carolla and the way he talks about cars as well. So that was a nice little flashback into the Pontiac. But we'll push on, because this is a song that I put this song on after a party once at mine to like impress you or something.
Yeah, basically I've got a very detailed paragraph.
Oh right.
Here. Like I remember like one morning we were back at your family home. The night before you'd been you'd cocked up with some girl, and you were playing this mournful like BB King-esque guitar, and I remember like being brought to tears by it because like I knew what you were going through, and like we lot of heavy drinking, a lot of habitual other things. And I was scouring your kitchen for the scarce snacks that lie therein. There's normally like an apple and a packet of crisps somewhere, and I always find it. And I remember like most people have gone home, and like when you're at that part in an after party where it's kind of like all that's left is your core kind of three mates who are going to help you tidy it all up. Danny obviously was still asleep, our resident artist, and our friend Ryan, I believe he was picking up some food for us. And you just turned to me and said, Sam, do you want to hear something really weird? And, I'd heard Rain Dogs by this point. I was familiar with Bone Machine. I thought, how weird can this be? And then, bam, holy shit, this song comes on and it's fucking off the wall. What the hell did you put on? Oh my God, what the hell is this? And it's clearly not the best music for Toast and Jam. But oh my God, I was arrested, locked up, and thrown in prison.
Yeah, I think I knew that song had the power to. I think I knew that you'd known a few Waits albums, and I wanted to just kind of throw you off a little bit and just kind of. I mean,
it's so fun, isn't it?
If you're familiar with the percussive excursions of Real Gone, the tremble and the rumble, then you've heard this song kind of before, haven't you? I like Spidey's Wild Ride, but there's nothing too new here.
I hadn't heard Real Gone up until that point, and I don't think you were that familiar with it either. But like, it's just like this cacophony of hilarious sounds, and it's both like elementally chaotic, which represents the literal stormy subject matter of this song. Like to me, Spidey's Wild Ride seems to be some guy who gets caught up in a tornado or a wind, and just get like everything's being chucked around in. But it's got this kind of like childlike playfulness. We know that it isn't really meant to be taken too seriously, and still has that great dichotomy of Waits songs. Like despite having this kind of playground level to it, with him kind of like squawking at us, there's this still undercurrent of demented imagery. Like this storm is a clusterfuck of destruction. Like no wonder it sent Waits mad. And there's just so many little lovely oddities that prove that it's not a loop like so much of hip hop is. Like there's this line where he's talking about shoeing a mule, and he just goes oh, boo, boo, like that, and it's just like every little thing he does is so cute and adorable, and you love all of it. And he's got lines from like we have Mrs. Storm from Kentucky Avenue. There's
she'll stab you with a steak knife.
Yeah, she sat on a porch with a shotgun, didn't she? Then you've also got whipped by the forces that were inside me from come up to the house. I'm not sure what the significance of that is. But Waits was talking to, you guessed it, Now Magazine, and they were talking about Spidey's Wild Ride, and he just said, I had fun doing that song, just some singing and some beatboxing. It's very rudimentary, yet at the same time very complete. What's interesting to me about hip-hop is that it doesn't have any conventional wisdom. The form is still being defined. You can put some hot sauce in the milkshake because it's still largely a lawless territory. If you want, you can record a mariachi calypso foxtrot with a Samoan singer in a bull ring. The production can also be very cheap. All you need is 3 fingers, a drum machine, and a sampler, and you can record a hit song in your closet. I've done some recording in a closet myself, and the washroom, in the garage, in the car too, whatever. And it does have that very garage, like I literally whipped this up in a day kind of feel. Tom Waits always seems to be able to do that without the artifice kind of collapsing upon itself. And to me, it's probably one of the highlights of this album. It's the best song about a storm for me ever, and it's just an assault of imagery, and it just you struggle to keep up with it, and you can't wait to re-listen to it again.
Yeah, it is good. It's probably the culmination of all that kind of Real Gone mechanics, isn't it? Kind of pushing forward into this beatboxing wilderness foray, and then you have Spidey's Wild Ride at the top. And maybe like Top of the Hill better though, I think. Just for its kind of groove, and it's like it's a bit longer as well. Spidey's Wild Ride is quite brief, but that's quite the appeal as well. And yeah, I don't mind the track at all. I find it an enjoyable listen as well. But it's not something that again is kind of like a lot of Bastards is. There's some moments of flared genius there, like Home I'll Never Be or Red Rum or something, where I'm just like, oh my god. And then there'll be tracks like this where I'm kind of like, yeah, no, I enjoy them, but they're not kind of ones that are going to be going on the playlist. But I think King Kong will, Sam, and I know that King Kong is something that you're a big fan of.
I've loved almost every version of the movie of that this is
Mm-hmm.
this is based on. I'm a big fan of the Daniel Johnston song that Waits covered. Obviously, Daniel Johnston has a very childlike delivery, like they shot him down, like that. But like, this is a cover that made you just think, I can't wait to hear what Tom does with this. And it's just like, oh my god, sorry Daniel Johnston, but he's blown you out of the water here. My god, Tom just like, okay, so he's picked a song with the drama, the Americana, the humour, the offbeat oddness to it, and it's just such sniper precision. And then, yes, the original's very whimsically childlike, but then you hear this Waits throat post Real Gone Human beatbox element. It just destroys the original rendition. So you get that, just this real. He sounds like the gorilla. It's this guttural, monstrous tone. Hey, they shot him down. And just this real primal chant, almost like the tribes people on Skull Island that have to like summon Kong. It's very much like that, kind of like Heigh, it's got that adult perspective of the song without actually changing any of the lyrics. Like, I love how like Kong has like his woman, like he was the king. Of course, he takes her without question. She's never called Anne Darrow at any point in the song, nor does Kong care for her name. Like, it's a very like might is right song, and it's a great kind of character for Tom to really like get into. This is definitely like a less sympathetic Kong than the one Peter Jackson did in 2006. I don't know why people hate that movie so much. Like, oh, boo-hoo! It took us an hour to get to Skull Island, but whatever. For me, this song is just a real. It's a force, isn't it? It's a real just. And then when the bass and the guitar come in as well. Oh, it just comes kicking in the front door.
Yeah, he says Tyrannosaurus Rex, and then just the guitar just plummets in.
It just transcends the original like entirely. And like the bass, it does feel like you're moving through this thick forested jungle, and like a monster could be behind every bush. And then that like kind of like very like 1970s almost prog rocky guitar comes in towards the end. That's kind of like it's so cool. Like everything he does in the song, I'm just like, oh, this is really interesting. I really like this. It's almost like a protest song at the tragedy of Kong's death, isn't it? Just like they shot him down. Like, it kind of like reminds you of the Fall of Troy. Like this innocent creature shot down in his prime. Will Kong find his own way back home to Skull Island? I don't think he will be, really. But it's just great to have Waits' perspective on such a classic story and a fantastic song. Are you much of a Daniel Johnston?
I don't know much of his stuff, to be honest. What I've heard I like. I remember there was a song of his on the end credits of an episode of Girls once. I think it was Life in Vain, and I really like that song. But yeah, I'm not too familiar with his discography, but I do love this song. I think this song is fucking brilliant. I remember a good friend of the show, Andy Jones. I remember being at his house when I was first getting into Waits and not really knowing Orphans, and he put on King Kong, similar to how I put on Spidey's Wild Ride, and I was like, fuck it. I was like, this Waits, like, what the hell? And I heard him saying like pterodactyl and shit, and I was like, Jesus Christ. I was like, what is Orphans? Like, this was, to me, I think it was actually King Kong that got me into Orphans, that I was kind of like, I have to listen to this now, like, just to see what this is going on about. And yeah, this is a brilliant track. I mean, kind of what I like is Waits is kind of delivering the lyrics, as you say, in a really kind of convincing way. And they wanted to get his picture, but were surprised by his enormous size. I've always liked that line, just kind of like, kind of almost playful and off the kill.
It was like a phallic symbol. That's so funny.
Yeah, I just love the delicious groove intrusion, like kind of, because you think it's going to kind of be a Lucinda with the but in reality, it has a lot more kind of like of a background and a backdrop going on to it, and it's a wonderful track. No real chorus, so you kind of just cling to the middle rhythmic centre of the song like a phallic skyscraper.
Yeah. He was talking to Stop Smiling magazine in 2006, and Waits just said, well, Jim Jarmusch played me his version of King Kong, and I tried to stay as true to that as I could. If you hear the original, you'll see what I mean. I got all his records. I thought I'd rediscover this. It's real outsider art. The interesting thing about outsider art is that it's such big business. These outsider artists are creating false biographies for themselves, saying they're victims of mental illness and child abuse, and they grew up poor in the South, and they're creating these false backgrounds. You aren't qualified as an outsider unless you've had no formal art education. so that you have to prove that you have no art education at all. It's an interesting turn of the tables, and I don't know what he's referring to there. I couldn't find any Jim Jarmusch version of King Kong. Perhaps Jim Jarmusch owned the Daniel Johnston version. One thing that I read, I love trawling review sites and YouTube after I've kind of written my main thrust of notes, trying to see what other people feel. And one guy was just moaning about how Waits keeps Daniel Johnston's delivery, that sort of "they shot him dead," like how he goes like downwards, it doesn't go upwards. And to me, that's one of the most interesting things about the song, how downtrodden it is for such a mighty beast of a track.
No, I agree. I don't know what he's doing there.
It's endlessly interesting. We were going to jump onto On the Road. I had a great little quote about Primus, but we've done that now. Basically, I would not have chosen that song to end Bastards. King Kong would have been a much better one. But like you say, we haven't technically ended. In May 2005, sorry, Waits was introducing Invitation to the Blues, a Grammy Awards subsidiary, and he essentially starts talking about a giant bull cock, doesn't he? This is Dog Treat. But one of the longest songs, ironically.
We should say that the Grammy subsidiary was the second annual Music Cares benefit concert honouring Metallica co-founder James Hetfield, and also concert promoter and manager Bill Silver. Tom Waits and Larry Taylor played, and they did a really good set list, actually. Just a brief one. They did Tango Till They're Sore, Invitation to the Blues, Lucky Day, and You Can Never Hold Back Spring. So, that's cool. A nice...
Lucky Day.
Yeah, nice mix. Nice. And there is this track, which is just a sort of spoken word intro song. Tom talking about the various things that go into dog snacks and kind of deliberating on bull penises. The song ends with, or the piece ends with him saying, "That's a lie," which is maybe quite telling there. And, it's one of those things. It's part of a Tom tale, isn't it? It's not too... I mean, it is funny, but it's just not got that kind of returnability, replay value.
Yeah, how many times has he told countless audiences a little ditty exactly like this one? It is naughty, it is a little bit funny. It's just a nice showcase that he is a performer at heart, and we can showcase that in a non-big time fashion. Like his audience play is just second to none, really. Like he has you in the palm of his hand, and this is a nice literal little encore. It would have been nice maybe if he'd gone from Dog Treat onto another actual song, then go straight onto the last track, which is Missing My Son. I've stolen this story several times in my life. It's a really good tale. I've heard other people tell it. I don't think Tom invented it. It's a very classic twist.
It feels quite Tom-esque, though, doesn't it?
Like it's almost like one of those tales of the unpredictable, and those weird like pulp fiction typey things. When I was a little younger, though, I assumed he meant Eunice says like, and then I was pulling her leg just like how I'm pulling yours now, and then he laughs. Obviously now I realise that means like he's just telling a lie, like the story's not true. But I assumed he meant like I'm meant to look down and literally see like a monstrous ghoulish Tom Waits like literally pulling at my leg, like, and that's why he's laughing, because like he's distracted us with this story, so like this monster has been able to creep up on us. But yeah, the thing that makes me laugh in this song is the Chinese reference. It catches me off guard every time. Like this woman's wandered up to Tom Waits, said, "You look exactly like my son," and then she presents this picture of like a young Chinese man. It's a great Waitson type story.
Yeah, and if it wasn't for that touch, it is quite sad when it starts, doesn't it? It kind of starts with him putting his stuff on the counter, and kind of the woman's talking about a missing son, and the song's called "Missing My Son," which gives it that kind of emphatic feel, and it's a great closer. I don't know about you, when I heard it, this is so lame, but I remember hearing it when I was like 17 or something, and I was like proud that I was a Waits fan, so I was like, this is really clever. I was like, this is great.
Yeah, like did you feel better than
I just thought I was like, I'm glad I'm listening to this. I was like, this is a really good thing. And I think back then I was very kind of just in a shuffle mode, so I kind of probably encountered this quite early. It wasn't like right at the end of the final disc or whatever, but it's a good closer, and it's kind of like Bastards is unwieldy, so maybe to close Bastards with a big number like King Kong goes against the ethos of the very disc itself,
Especially self-contained within Bastards. This is a unfittingly fitting way to end it. I've always liked this one. I always like to put it on. I just like the way it starts. Like, I was in line at the supermarket. Like he just jumps straight in. It's like, oh, wicked. What's Tom talking about?
No, I agree.
Now?
Yeah, it's great. But we'll wrap up, and that's Orphans, baby. Jesus, that's a lot of tracks to get through. But we'll wrap up finally just by least favorite and favorite songs. So Sam, your least favorite song on this disc?
Oh, it's
on the road. Yeah. Fair choice.
Hands down. Favorite song though. Oh my god, this is a really difficult one. It's between Spidey's Wild Ride, King Kong, and What Keeps Mankind Alive. And I think, for the sake of our friendship, I'm going to pick Spidey's Wild Ride.
Fair enough. For worst song, it's actually hard. There isn't one that I'm going to go to. I mean, I probably would have said On the Road as well, but seeing as you've taken that, I'll maybe go with Altar Boy, maybe, just for it not being that memorable, really. But, there's nothing too bad in here. Favourite song, probably going to have to say Two Sisters, just in the way it affects me. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful track. Wonderful story, wonderful song. But Sam, we're on our penultimate Reelgone review, and in our final Reelgone review on Bad As Me, we are going to do Tom's first ever film appearance, Paradise Alley as Mumbles on Sylvester Stallone's film.
It makes me laugh every time I hear his name as Mumbles.
And he kind of said that he wasn't in it that much, or at least the Barney Hoskins book made it seem like that. But he's in it a little bit. He's not in it a lot, but we'll go on to it. But I should say as well, if you want to get in contact with the show at all, that's tomwaitspodcast@gmail.com, @tomwaitspodcast. Please, any opinions on Bad As Me or Bastards or anything else? How did you get into Waits? Love to hear all those stories. But Sam, final film is Shortcuts.
Oh, what are you doing here?
Here to see you. What else? Baby, I've looked everywhere for you. I was at the trailer last night. You weren't there. Your car was there, but you weren't there.
Honey, where you been sleeping? Look at you.
I slept outside. I didn't want to sleep in our bed.
People are looking. You want to order something?
Yeah. How about you on a bed of rice?
Cut it on. You want a cup of coffee?
Oh, yeah. Give me some coffee. How about an egg sandwich?
With a broke yolk.
Yeah, with a broke
It's not
yolk.
a short film at all. This was about
It's so long, isn't
3
it?
hours 10 or something. It really is, and it's kind of like this epic that spans the life. Like it's one of those, like, a day in the life, or days in the lives of at least 20 or so characters. The cast list is longer than most Tom Waits songs. But I'm just going to say, this is a Tom Waits podcast. I've ranted and raved on films that on the non-Waits in aspects probably longer than I should have. So I'm just going to say, this film blends seamlessly together hundreds of separate threads of story that are all able to stand up on their own 2 feet, unlike a lot of Waits in anthology films, typically things like Coffee and Cigarettes, that do have proper highs and lows. But I think for the purposes of this podcast, I'm just going to focus on the Waits 20th of the movie. Waits plays Earl, an alcoholic limousine driver. He's quirky. He goes to diners while his 2 patrons are passed out while they've been shagging in the back, and his wife, played by Lily McConaissance Tomlin, who as like a waitress there. Tom kind of gets cranky at one point because there are a bunch of eyes ogling her ass as she bends down to pick up some butter, and she's annoyed at him because he promised he would stop drinking and stop lying, but he hasn't. Then there's this daughter thrown into the mix as well, and her friends Robert Downey Jr. and I'm just like, oh wow, Tom Waits and Robert Downey were in the same room once. I kind of liked. I don't know. We've tried to fit Tom Waits into the Marvel universe before. I think someone emailed and said he could have been the Joker in the 80s. Yeah. That would have been great. They have a great relationship, Tom and Lily. I don't think I've written down what his name was. Yeah. I'll just call them Tom and Lily. It's this great sort of cyclical type relationship. You know these people at school. They broke up every week and they got back together every week. They're poisonous for each other, but they need each other. It really is that kind of relationship. They are both abused and abusive. And when Tom's at his lowest and he's really like repentant, kind of like at the start or end of one of these endless cycles, like he starts like crying to her, like in this diner, and it's really well done. It's not his best acting. I think his best acting moment weirdly comes in Seven Psychopaths, but yeah, it's just a very nice soft turn for Waits. Unfortunately, he's so typecast in this role, especially when he's in his limousine driver's outfit, which is a suit and tie, and he has these big time sunglasses on. Him sat at a bar drinking whiskey and mumbling. It's a little too on the nose for me. And like he's in like a wife beater vest. And it's like, who wants to stare at your fat ass anyway? And it's a little bit. It's somewhere between something like from At Play in the Fields of the Lord and Kenny.
Cold
what was
Feet,
that? Cold Feet, was it? I can't believe we watched that. like looking back, like what did you get out of this podcast? Well, I did get to watch Cold Feet, which I never would have watched any other time. But yeah, there's a nice little moment in this. Tomlin and Waits both kind of declare that they aren't perfect for each other, but they'll stay together forever anyway. And there's a line that they say that's used in Picture in a Frame when they say they'll be together till the wheels come off. And like I noticed that straight away. I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. That's quite nice. And then the movie ends with basically every single character up until that point either living or dead. There are a lot of deaths in this movie. Spoiler alert. It's kind of a film purely about like infidelity and
that was Robert Altman's kind of known for that, isn't he? He does those big films that are long with tons of characters. Like I think
he's very
I think he did a film called Nashville that I've been meaning to see for years from the 70s. It's like a big, similar to Shortcuts kind of film.
Yeah. Well, he did MASH, and like obviously I only know MASH from what The Simpsons has told me, and MASH to me is like kind of like this cheesy, crappy like 70s and 80s sitcom. But apparently
I think the series is regarded highly as well. Actually, I've quite a few people know into MASH, but I don't really like MASH, but.
But yeah, so the film ends with a little earthquake. We see the earthquake from every single character's perspective, and like the movie literally just ends with Waits and Tomlin going, it wasn't a big one, was it? And they're both in like tiki outfits,
and that's the final scene
from like coconuts.
Oh, great!
Yeah, and then like Tom's just like singing, like shaking maracas and stuff. It's kind of cool. It's kind of fun. It's not brilliant. It's got like such a high Rotten Tomatoes score and such high acclaim. I couldn't really.
I tried to watch it for half an hour, and I agree. Actually, I struggled. Obviously there are so many characters. So it's not like there isn't like a narrative at first. It's kind of, and even then you've got to kind of keep your head in the game, and it's 3 hours long. It's asking a lot.
Thing is, what you could have done, Tom, you could have blagged your whole way through this podcast, and there's actually a video on YouTube which is just all of Lily Tomlin's and Tom Waits scenes in shortcut. It's like, oh, wicked! I wish I'd have done that rather than watching the 3 hours. But yeah, that's our last official movie of Real Gone until we do
exactly.
His first
So
next week.
It'll be a little bit, but yeah, the episode will be out the 21st of July. So we shall see you then. But thank you so much again for joining us, and we hope to join us next time for our final episode. This has been.
Oh man, I'm getting quite agitated right now. Just thinking about it. My heart's beating.
So please, if you want to support the podcast in any way, please leave us a review on iTunes. Please buy some of our merchandise, which helps with the bandwidth costs. On Redbubble.
Buy lots of it.
Email us. Love to email us as well. Subscribe, get in contact. Just help support us in any way if you like us. Like the video on YouTube, all that good stuff. But
hey, and give us a someone out there that we know we have hundreds of fans. I don't care if you're in Japan,
Senegal,
or that guy from Senegal. We even have downloads in Russia now, Spain, Portugal. Someone out there, give us a
calm down
iTunes review, please. No, man, I've had enough of this. We've been begging for 11 episodes now. We've been begging on our hands and knees. Someone out there, please give us an iTunes review, even a bad one, just something. Give us something.
All right,
please.
Well, you heard the man. But thank you so much, and obviously, Sam, you've been Sam. I've been Tom. Thank you so much, guys, and we'll see you soon. Keep listening to Waits.
Oh, bad as me next week.
I wish you were here more often, but you don't live here, do you? Where do you live?
Well, I'm living in California. I was here for a few years.
Put in some time here. How do you like California?
Well, it's it's very different than New York,
Right.
as you know.
Yes.
My stay here was difficult primarily because you know what was new was jogging was new when I was here.
And that drove you out of the city?
No, I thought it was an acronym for something. I thought it was Jamaicans on grass or something.
Oh, sure. Easy enough to make that mistake.
Yeah. So but I wasn't ready for it. Because I was still drinking and smoking at the time, kind of around the clock.
Around the clock. Sure. Well, it is. If you really put yourself into it, it's a 24-hour-a-day gig.
It got in the way of my jogging.
But you look fantastic, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
And I couldn't help but notice what seems to be an artifact here.
Well, I too am no longer allowed on eBay.
Really?
And the last thing I bought was the last dying breath of Henry Ford.
Wow. What? Now, it's none of my business, but what did you pay for that?
Too much.
Yeah, too much.